What's good, everyone? It's Zigzag here. Welcome back to another GeoGuessr video, and there is a good reason for this double upload today. So this afternoon, I decided to sit down and play some Rural World, no moving, panning, or zooming in preparation for this week's tournament, which is on the same map, and I happened to get the second best game ever on the map. This is quite unprecedented. I literally just sat down and played for 20 minutes and pulled it out of thin air, quite honestly. Also, you can see my name is already on the record list here. That is because the Plonker team was kind enough to immediately review my VOD. So big thanks to Dennis and Juper and all the other Plonker moderators who do a good job over there. If you want to submit a record, be sure to film it in full screen and then submit it to plonker.net. Before we get into the run itself, it would be really nice if you could give the video a like. That helps YouTube know that this is a channel that people enjoy. And yeah, let's get it. Okay, so let's get into this video and see how it panned out. I'll do my best to explain things. You'll notice that I have it on 10 seconds per round at the start here. There's no rule that says I had to do that, but in order to get through a lot of seeds, because this map is particularly difficult, I thought I'll just go quickly at the start. And then once I get to 10 or something like that, I'll slow it down. Okay, so the first round, 10 seconds to think about here. With this kind of sandiness, but also this really wide road, I thought it was much more likely to be South Africa than Botswana, so I just went really quickly there. I mean, on the first round, you don't really consider too hard. Next one here, we have ocean over there to our west. Compass is facing south. I thought it was somewhere in Chile, not quite sure where. It was all the way north, so I definitely didn't think it was up there, but hey, we got it right. Next one, we had a short antenna. Now, short antenna is not typical of Russia, but I thought with this road quality mixed in with this dense forest that it probably wasn't Ukraine, and so I thought Russia was just more likely. I didn't really think that it fitted for the other Eastern European countries that it really could have been. So just went in for Russia here and guessed, and it was ending up in Samara, so not a bad result. We moved on to 3 countries in a row. Next one here, I'm just eating my Kit Kat, not really concentrating that hard at this point, but just looking at the houses in the background, look at this. I got into the map at 2 seconds. This was kind of risky. The whole run could have ended here, but I thought with this concrete pole that was just in front of us, let's take a look at it. Yeah, this round concrete pole plus this house in the background. I'm not even sure if I properly looked at that, but I just thought the vibes were quite Indonesian, so that is what I ended up opting for here. And you can see with the time 1, man, if I clicked any later, that wouldn't have registered. Thankfully, I clicked on Sumatra there just behind my webcam, and we moved to 4 countries in a row. Next one here, we have, well, I immediately get into the map here, but let's take a look at this again. Next one here, we have a white Google car. Normally you see blue ones, but this one's white, which is actually quite helpful. We have double yellow center line, and then we have this kind of greenery and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure the countries that have this white Google car, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the 2 countries you see it most often in are Philippines and Colombia, sorry, not Cambodia. And I also think you can see it sometimes in Mexico, maybe, I'm not sure. But this one with the double yellow line definitely felt quite Colombian, and did not feel very Filipino. So yeah, we move on to 5 in a row there, chilling, eating my Kit Kat, and ready to jump into another one, which was only 10 seconds per round again. So I was feeling fairly confident, just wanted to get to 10. This one is interesting. Like, my real gut reaction here was that this was Bolivia, but in Bolivia, you'd probably see more of the Google car here. It wouldn't be so blurred. And then also, this was definitely the shape of a Brazil pole. Honestly, I thought this was Bolivia, but when I couldn't really figure out where it would be in Bolivia, and I thought that looked more like a Brazil pole, I was hovering over Bolivia, wasn't quite sure. Then I thought, if it is Brazil, probably northeast somewhere. Went Piauí. It ends up being in Minas Gerais, so we moved to 6. Okay, next one here is an easy Russia. I mean, I feel like in the future, if they add more countries to GeoGuessr, this might not be easy in the future, but we have these larch trees here. I believe these are larches or maybe spruces, but anyway, they're quite, I think these are larches actually, and these are quite Siberian, and then also this kind of misty, kind of bushfire, foggy coverage, a bit smoky. That's definitely looking like Siberia, and I thought it might be the one that was closer to where I clicked, but it ended up being near Magadan. So 2,000 points, but the right country. Okay, next one here, I believe these are Sabah specific poles. Then we had the white Google car and these ferns and the dirt road and the mountains. All that kind of adds up to Sabah anyway, but this was a nice confirmation. I'm pretty sure this pole is specific to there. I don't exactly know how that pole works, but I was pretty sure that was it, and I was right, so that's good. Move to 8. Next one here is definitely a 50-50 of kinds. Generation 4 dirt road could have been any of the Baltics, and I just had to pick the right one at that point. Looking around, I was feeling Latvia. I really thought the road was a bit thin. Maybe Estonia was possible, but ends up being right inside Latvia on the Lithuanian border there. So a good little result. We moved to 9 in a row, which is already, as you guys have seen, basically halfway to getting onto the leaderboards. So now we have the long dashes on the outside. This one's a bit of a freebie. Should be somewhere in Norway when it looks like that. And of course, it was fairly far north, though, and we moved to 10 in a row. And so at this point, I'm like, let's slow things down. No need to take no need to go too quickly here. And we start off with an easy Russia. And the reason it's an easy Russia, I'll show you guys this again, is we got the signpost that's painted white with the black at the bottom. Only countries that really do that are Thailand and Russia on GeoGuessr, and this is clearly not Thailand. I hope you didn't need the explaining for that, and so this one should just be Southern Russia, and it ends up being correct. Okay, next one here, we move on to the first difficult toss-up round of the kind of post 10-second per round era, if we want to call it that, and we have this long grass, we have mountains in the background. The mountains in the background, I would say, are the biggest clue, even though they're not entirely clear, and then kind of just the different vegetation to work with here. We don't actually see anything in the way of a Google car. We know it's kind of some of the newer Gen 4 coverage, though, and a white road. So really here, I was between Philippines, Brazil, and Colombia, I want to say. I think they were the three countries, and particularly between Brazil and Colombia. And I definitely think that even though normally you see the red dirt in Brazil, that there can be a lot of white dirt near the coast, and so that's what I'm kind of considering here as I'm looking at the round and having a drink of my water. But I think what ultimately makes me go Colombia here is these mountains in the background. And this fence here too is probably a little bit more typical of Colombia, though you can see similar things in Brazil as well. But yeah, just looking at this mountain in the background, it's kind of more ridgy, and it has like patches of trees and patches of grass. I think you can see that kind of here if you look really close into your screen on full screen. But yeah, being on 11 streak, I want to take my time here, so let's just fast forward to my decision. I was really hovering over Brazil a lot, but in the end I decided to go for Colombia, and it pays off near Medellin there. Still a difficult round, that's for sure. Okay, next one was an easy round that I kind of overthought a bit. So we have dirt road coverage, slight redness to the soil, a lot of eucalyptus trees being planted on the right side of the screen here. And the main thing is this trident pole, which has the 3 dots on it. Now, there is a trident pole in Rio Grande do Sul, which is why I initially put my marker here. Now, that one, I believe, looks a bit different. You would not have the trident being so tall. I think this would be shorter. This part here of the pole would be shorter in Rio Grande do Sul, even though you have a very similar pole there. You would not see such a pole in Argentina, so I didn't have to worry about that. But then I was just left thinking about, where have I seen this pole? Would I see this ever in Brazil? I'm pretty sure you would not see one like that in Brazil, basically ever. So, or at least very rarely. So I really thought that Uruguay was the better bet here, unless it was a bait location like you often see on this map. Let's fast forward to the decision here. I end up going for Uruguay, and we move to 13 in a row. And the next one here is what looks like a very, very difficult round, actually made easy by something particular. Can you work it out? When you look at this round, can you work out what makes this round easy? I mean, look at these trees in the background. They almost look African or something like that. But the problem here is that we're actually in low camera. I could tell that, but look at this grass. It definitely feels like we're kind of lower than we should be, and the blur is definitely quite a bit wider than you'd expect as well. So for that reason, basically has to be Japan. There's nowhere in Switzerland that looks like this. There's nowhere in Sri Lanka that looks like this. And then any other locam probably doesn't really fit for this either. So looking at these like buildings in the background as well, definitely fits for Japan. This kind of field also fits for like smaller Japanese islands, which is what I end up going for here. And yeah, I didn't actually think this was Okinawa. I clicked there because I know it's actually in Japan, and some of those islands over there are actually Taiwanese. So yep, we move forward to 14 on Japan. So now we are approaching leaderboards. The third place was 17, the second place was 18, so that's what I was trying to beat here, and we are looking at some of the new African Gen 4 coverage. I was pretty sure it was in Africa off the bat. We would see a yellow centerline if we were in Kenya, so it shouldn't have been there. Then we have this dryness around each side of the road, and a motorbike cyclist in the background there. Okay, so that is what we're left with here. Should be Nigeria or Senegal based on the new Generation 4 coverage. We do not have anything in the way of poles or anything like that. The ones in the distance are just too far to see. We don't have any number plates, we don't have any other cars, we don't have any infrastructure at all. This is purely based on landscape. And to me, it was feeling always a little bit more Senegalese than Nigerian. I couldn't really describe why, honestly, on a round like this. It's kind of just the vibe. And I haven't seen or practiced the new Generation 4 too much, but I was really kind of thinking that this one should be somewhere in Senegal. Okay, so I get into the map here. I decide it's probably not in the desert, it's probably more south, and I end up being 23 kilometers away. Super good result, 20,000 points there on that seed, and we move forward to the seed that decides everything. If I succeed all the way through this seed, then we would be second place in the world easily, and the next seed, then we would have had first. But okay, let's see what we got going on here. We've got a white car here with a long antenna. With the yellow bollard, this is easily Iceland. A bit of a strange looking Iceland, to be fair, but with the bollards, it's easy. And the next one, we get another freebie, so this was just absolutely fantastic. We've got a Stobie pole with a trident top here. Even if I couldn't quite tell that that was a Stobie pole, the trident top is only found in South Australia and in New South Wales, and this just looks much more like South Australia to me. I guess it, and of course it's correct. So 17. Now we are up to 17, and we get the next round, which is quite difficult. So I immediately got into looking at this pole in the distance. That's what I first looked at. Going through my mind was like Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, something like that. Wasn't really familiar with this pole though. And so then what do we have to work with? We have to work with this shadow and these bollards in the background. That's the two big things to get the country here. The bollards were really hard to make out. I was all the way in looking at the screen like that, and I worked out that probably these look more like New Zealand bollards than anything else. They're not Australian, I knew that. They didn't really look like Mongolian ones, to be fair, and you would not see bollards in Kyrgyzstan, and a lot of Southern Hemisphere countries also. For example, like Argentina, you would not see bollards like this. And then, the saving grace was that we had this compass facing north, and we knew that the sun was to the north. If this shadow is being cast to the south, then the sun should be in the north, which means we're in the Southern Hemisphere. You know, bit of a convoluted piece of mental work you have to do there, but not that hard, to be fair, and that was pretty much conclusive to me that we'd be in New Zealand. Now, it did not look like New Zealand, to be fair, but we did have the white road lines, we did have bollards, we did have wooden poles, so at the end of the day, it does make a lot of sense, and it was just one I had to look at for a little bit before I was able to get it. Okay, I end up sending it in on South Island, New Zealand here, ends up being even a nice guess, and we move on to the round. Okay, so here is what I was immediately saying to the camera. I said, this is either Malaysia or it is Indonesia. It has to be one of those two countries. The oil palms are the big clue here. I mean, these are the two countries that would grow these oil palms that are low to the ground. Easily the most. I can't even think of another country. I can't even think of the country that would grow them the third most. You just see them a whole lot on Sumatra and Borneo. So that's what I was thinking here. Is this Borneo? Is this Sumatra? Now, we had the sun a little bit to work with. We can see the shadows of the trees, and the shadows seem to be cast a little bit north, which would mean the sun was south, which would mean we were in the northern hemisphere. So that's kind of what I was thinking, and I was just very not happy to see this round. I would have liked to see something a little bit easier. The thinness of the road made me think of Indonesia more, but I knew it was a true toss-up because there are plenty of thin roads like this on Borneo in Malaysia as well, I would say. The drainage system seemed a little bit like, it didn't seem the nicest. I guess it seemed like a bit more of a poor area, but I don't think there's too much money in Borneo, Malaysia either. It's more just the mainland that looks kind of nicer. And so that's kind of was my consideration here. I just didn't really know where to go with this round. It had to be one of the two, but I didn't know how to distinguish it. Now, in hindsight, we have a bit more red dirt here, which I think could have helped me get the answer, because I think where I clicked, you probably wouldn't see such red dirt. And if you're a good player, feel free to let me know what your opinion is on that in the comments. But I basically agonized over this for about a minute here, and let's get towards my guess here. So I'm just thinking the absolute pensiveness. I didn't know what the record was, so I had no idea if we were already, I was pretty sure we weren't, if we were a little bit below it or even top 3 or whatever. But luckily I didn't have that stress on my shoulders. I just thought, okay, I'll just go as far as I can here. I really just the whole time had the inkling that it was probably more likely to be Indonesia than Malaysia, despite the fact that these plantations are probably a little bit more common in Malaysia than Indonesia. So that was my thought here. I decided to go for Sumatra, and it ends up being Borneo, unfortunately. Man, there were hills all around us there. I'm just looking at that now. So, you know, that is the baitiness of this map. It'll put you in a mountainous location and you'll just be facing straight to the ocean or straight to the flattest part. So, kind of annoying there, but hey. The next round also was a Bulgaria, which I initially thought Bulgaria, and I'm not sure if I gave it a lot of thought what I would have gone with, but I actually went for Hungary. So if I went with my initial thought, I would have made it to 20. If not, then I would have failed there. But it was definitely a harder round than this one, I reckon, actually. So you would have had to I would have had to have had some luck to get to 20, and then beyond that, who knows what would have happened. Presumably, I would have lost it in the early 20s. That's the reality of how hard this map is. But I'm super stoked to get back on the leaderboards here, guys. How good is that? Second place. I mean, I feel like I'm moving up. I feel like all the grind I've been putting in GeoGuessr recently is paying off. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in a video very soon. Thanks for making it all the way to the end and supporting me, and I'll see you guys in a video very soon. Catch you later. Goodbye.